Have you ever wondered why you haven't seen a true Blu-ray copy of 28 Days Later, but you can pick up a full 1080p copy of Hitchcock's 1960 Psycho? No one has asked that question. However, the question does bring up an interesting point in Hollywood's history, when small budget films were using standard definition cameras to save money. Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later is the best example for movies, not the only example, but by far the best. The fact they used a cheap Canon XL1 over a film camera actually benefited the filming of the Westminster Bridge scene at the beginning of the movie. They were able to set up multiple cameras at one time to capture the shot. TV shows also adapted standard definition cameras around the same time. Most notably, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for season 1 through 5. It is kind of unfortunate that this period existed, because 28 Days Later is almost unwatchable in HD format, even though it is a fantastic movie. Luckily at the time, standard definition cameras were only used for some movies and TV shows. Most still used film. But that didn't last long. In the mid-2000s, a new era of filmmaking began. I don't think there is a term for this era, so let's just call it digital HD. What is digital HD, you might ask? Well, it is the period of time when Hollywood started to move towards full digital cameras and away from film cameras, which would ultimately save them money. However, there was one drawback. Early digital cameras only filmed in 1080p. This will cause an unforeseen problem down the road, just like the short SD era caused. We as consumers are moving away from 1080 to 4K. There will be a full generation of movies that will never be remastered into 4K because it simply can't be done. Which brings us back to the long-lived film era and why you can get a beautiful Blu-ray copy of a movie that is almost 60 years old. I think a lot of people think film is a standard definition format, but that simply isn't true. Over the years, there has been 4 major film gauges. They are 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, and 70mm. I just want to talk about the last two though. 35mm is the standard. It is what most movies were filmed on. Here is where it gets interesting. Nowadays when they scan the original film, it can come out to approximately a 6K equivalent. This is why it is so easy to convert over to the current standard of 1080p and the future standard of 4K. As for 70mm, it is huge. It is still used today by some big name directors. 70mm comes in 2 formats, non-IMAX which is 5 perf, and IMAX which is 15 perf, which runs horizontally. They have the digital equivalent of 12K and 18K respectively, which means they will have a long shelf life down the road for remastering, unlike the period in the late 2000s. To put this all into perspective, on the digital front, we are just now getting to 8K with the Red Weapon release in 2015. Honestly, this is something that won't impact most people. It is just something I think about sometimes. It just doesn't seem like enough people appreciate film and the benefits it gave us. I'd like to say thank you to Tobias for being my first patron. I appreciate it so much. I would also like to thank the guys at Storytellers for being my second patrons. Couldn't do it without you guys. I appreciate all 3 of you guys so much. If you guys enjoyed this content, hit the like button. If you guys want to see more, be sure to subscribe. And again, thank you to my patrons for sponsoring this video.